Hi guys, it is story time Thursday, which actually is not a thing, but that's what we're gonna do right now today. So I'm gonna be starting a little series about some crazy stories that's happened to me within these last 4.5 years abroad and just kind of open up to you. I have a lot of new subscribers that don't really know anything about me. I think most of y'all don't really care about anything other than like the money videos, which is fine, but just gonna share a little bit with you guys. So 2019 for me, I know I'm going to try my hardest to distance myself from toxic relationships. One of the biggest lessons I learned in 2018 is just you do not have to be friends with everybody. Not everybody brings something into your life. If you can relate to this video at any point in time, give this video a thumbs up. And if you don't follow my channel, consider subscribing because we're gonna be doing this every single Thursday, pretty much until I run out of things to talk about. Okay, let's go. So this was my first apartment that I lived outside of my parents' house and outside of a family. So I found this apartment on one of these roommate websites, and when I met the woman, she lived with her daughter in La Latina, Madrid. So a prime location. It was a beautiful apartment. The room itself that I was renting was awful. It didn't have a window. It didn't even have a closet. It barely had a door. Like the door wasn't even a real door. It was like this thing that goes like this and it slides, but you could hear everything. It didn't keep the heat in the room or anything. It was absolutely horrible, but I loved the area and it was my first time living abroad, so I really didn't care, and I was just really excited to have my own apartment. So the first day I met her, like I said, she was super nice and she was like, my daughter's learning English, you guys are gonna get along great, this is great, all of us women, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, this is just so great. And I've been looking for an apartment probably for the last 3 months, and I've already applied for maybe like 10 different apartments before this. So I was like really excited to get this apartment. Okay, so she was really nice. So I thought. The very next day, I came out of my room and there was this Asian couple in the living room, and they were kind of like huddled together over this map, and they were kind of like going over some things, and she was speaking English to them. So I went up to them in English and I said, hey, are these our new roommates? And she was like, ¿Qué? I repeated myself and she said, en español? And I was like, son nuestros compañeros nuevos? And she was like, luego hablamos. So I said, okay. I actually kind of forgot about it because I was moving into this room and I had my, my own life to think about. But later I ran into this Asian couple again and I asked again because I was like, who are these people? Her name is Sally, by the way. She's never gonna see this video. Whatever. She was like, yeah, we need to talk. Before you stayed here, there was nobody here and it was really hard for us to pay the rent of the apartment because it's expensive, so we did Airbnb. But now that you're here, as soon as we finish the reservations, we're gonna stop Airbnb because it was really just to help us out financially. Cool. I was like, okay, awesome. And honestly, I didn't really care about the Airbnb. I knew I was only gonna be in Spain for a year. So I thought, I was 19, I was really excited to be in a new country and live on my own for the first time. I really was not worried about Airbnb, but this is what she told me. The very next day, I was unpacking my things, and this was the first red flag that came to me. She was constantly coming into my room telling me how much noise I was making. Hola, Katy.
¿Sí?
¿Puedes hacer menos ruido? Te escucho desde mi habitación.
Oh, lo siento.
Gracias. And then she would come again. Katy.
¿Sí?
Te escucho desde mi habitación. ¿Puedes hacer menos ruido, por favor? Por favor.
Lo siento. Voy a intentar moverme menos.
Gracias. I was literally just in my bed doing nothing, but I didn't even have a door. I didn't have a proper door, so it was like, what do you expect me to do? Just like not breathe? When I would invite friends over, we would just be me and one other friend, and we'd be talking maybe with a little bit of music, and she would constantly be coming over being like, you're so loud, like I can hear you in my room. We were literally just practically whispering. I would be cooking my food. She would literally grab the pan out of my hand and be telling me I'm cooking something wrong. She would just be hovering over me, being like, you're cooking this wrong, like this is how you do this. But at the same time, like I was in that phase of being like, oh, thank you, like you're so nice, like thanks for helping me, like that's so great, because that's just the kind of person I am. And when I was 19, I was even more noxiously bubbly and just, anyways, really effing annoying. That eventually escalated into her standing over my food and being like, huele mal.
¿Cómo?
Ay, nada. Pues huele muy mal, Katy. Huele muy mal. Tu comida huele muy mal. ¿Sabes qué es caca? Pues huele como eso. Y sabe mal también. Your food smells bad. Your food stinks. Ew, what is that? What are you eating? It made me feel bad because, I mean, you can imagine, but also being so young and that was my first time like living on my own and cooking on my own, I was really sensitive to these things because I don't really know how to cook, but I was learning. It doesn't matter, like you're not eating it, so why do you care? This progressed into a lot worse of her finding out I was vegan and her just being very like grossed out by the fact that I was vegan. It was always commenting on how my figure and how I was so skinny, and she would always just be like, that's why you're so skinny. And she was always, okay, I don't know if skinny shaming is a thing, but if it is, she would always be doing, ay, Katy, pobrecita, ¿sabes por qué eres tan delgada? Porque salí, porque solo comes lechuga. Katy, deberías comer más. Katy, eres súper delgada. ¿Por qué comes esto? ¿Qué es esto? ¿Qué es esto que estás comiendo? ¿Qué es esto? Katy, eres súper delgada. Delgadation. Please, come más. Or just imagine someone standing over you with their head and they're just like, what are you eating? Like, like that looks gross. You're gross. You're so skinny. It was horrible. I did that for like 8 months. Every single meal. I was cooking when she wanted to be cooking, walking back and forth in the kitchen and just like making, just like, oh my God, que tiempo, and just making kind of like comments under her breath all the time. And I would try to like have small talk with her. She just wasn't having it. She did not want to, honestly, I think she hated me. I think she needed help financially to pay for this other room, but she really didn't want to live with roommates because she was in her 40s and had a child. So I would finish cooking and I would sit down with them and I would try to make conversation and she would just stare at me. ¿Quieres? ¿Qué tal? So eventually I just started eating food in my room because she made me feel really uncomfortable and she was constantly just standing over me being like, you're this, you're that, you look like shit. Like literally, like this was my life. So I just started eating in my room peacefully. Okay, now the cleaning schedule. The cleaning schedule, we all had to chip in to clean this apartment, which was completely fine, but she was meticulous about how she wanted everything to be clean, and it had to be her way or she's gonna be up your ass the entire time telling you every little thing you did. And my day was always on Saturday, which was really inconvenient because if I wanted to travel, I couldn't miss my cleaning day or she would have a hernia. Like, I'm not a psychologist, but I think she was kind of, there was something going on with her because there would be, she had blonde curly hair and her blonde curly hair would be in the shower drain. She would grab me by her and drag me across the apartment and be like, look, she's like, que asco, like you're so disgusting, like you didn't clean this bathroom, you didn't clean the whole thing, and like your hair is everywhere. She would always blame me like for her hair in the drain, and I'm just like, okay, your hair is blonde hair, black hair. Blonde hair, like it was her hair and it was so obvious. It's everyone else's fault but hers, but specifically me because I was the new roommate and yeah, everything was my fault. Everything was my fault. So since I was wearing a weave, since the hair wasn't growing out of my scalp, sometimes I would walk through the kitchen or something and a hair would fall on the ground. She would go berserk. berserk. She would flip, like she would go crazy. She'd be like, you're disgusting, you're this, you're that. Why are you combing your hair in the kitchen? Where have you ever seen me comb my hair in the kitchen? She used to just make stuff up and she would get in her head. You couldn't tell her anything. You were combing your hair in the kitchen. I really wasn't.
Hola, Katy.
¿Sí?
Wow, mira cómo estás. ¿Qué piensas que es esto? Soy una limpiadora, limpiando todas tus cosas todo a puyo día. No limpias nada nunca. ¿Qué te pasa? ¿No puedes limpiar? ¿No sabes limpiar o qué?
Sally, no sé de qué hablas.
Pues te enseño. Ven aquí. Tienes todos tus pelos en el suelo. ¿Quieres un perro o algo? Joder. Aquí, ¿no lo ves? Todos tus pelos en el suelo, ¿no lo ves?
Pues no, Sally, no lo veo. ¿Dónde?
Aquí mismo, joder. Aquí.
Oh, lo siento, lo cojo ahora. Since I had to clean on Saturdays and I couldn't go traveling as much because she would like force me to stay home and clean, I decided to just hire a cleaner because she only charged $10 an hour. She's a professional cleaner, so she can get done with this whole house in an hour, and I had to pay 10 bucks. Is this worth 40 bucks a month? Yes, it is. When she found out that I hired a cleaner on a Saturday, she wouldn't even let this woman in the door. I got an earful about how I don't know this woman. How dare I just hire someone without her consent? She could be a robber. And she just like went crazy. By the way, she is running an Airbnb, which you don't know the people. Sorry guys, my camera died, but here we go. So one thing she used to always like to do was she was very mentally abusive and emotionally abusive and verbally abusive. She just liked to always tear me down. And one way she would always do that was to tell me how bad my Spanish was and like constantly reminding me how bad it was. Like my Spanish honestly was not good, but when you're learning a new language, the last thing you need is someone in your ear saying how crappy your Spanish is. She would always like mind F me, where even when my Spanish was like improving and getting better, I just could not talk to her because she would constantly just be like, your Spanish is horrible, why don't you get a Spanish teacher? Really just like was like, your Spanish is crap, constant. Not only would she just remind me how bad my Spanish was every day, is she would talk to me like I was really stupid.
Katy, aquí, here, the thing here, no, here, okay?
The thing was, like, I understood everything she was saying to me. I just couldn't produce anything because of her, like, in my head saying, like, your Spanish sucks, which made me not want to speak around her. We had a 5-bedroom apartment with 2 bathrooms, and she actually never told me, this was like one of my first weeks at this house, she never told me that one bathroom was for all 4 of us to share, and then the Airbnb guests had their own separate bathroom. So when one of my friends came over, she went into the bathroom of the Airbnb. Since we talked too loud, I was on the balcony, so I didn't hear any of this conversation, but apparently Solly was like screaming at my friend, dragged her out of the bathroom mid-peeing, and like yelled at her and made her leave the apartment. So now she comes into the balcony and she's just like, your friend just like kicked out the Airbnb out of their bathroom, blah, blah, blah. What kind of friends do you have? Like, da, 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 da. And I was just like, wait, my friend did that? I was like, no, she didn't. Why would she kick someone out the bathroom? Like, there's 2 bathrooms. So then I called her, my friend, and she's bawling hysterically saying like, Solly just humiliated her with her pants down and everything in front of these Airbnb guests and just like yelled at her and kicked her out. And this was like before I knew Solly was like batshit crazy. So I was like, wait, like, did that really happen? And she was so hysterical that I was like, that must have happened, because why would she make that up? So I was just like, this B is crazy. Like, she's crazy. Like, who the F does that? Like, who does that in their right mind? Who does that? One day, Solly came into my room and she was trying to convince me to give free classes to her daughter by saying that.
Hola, Katy. Ay, que estaba pensando, como tu español es una mierda, puedes hacer un intercambio con mi hija. Necesitas una buena profesora.
Lo voy a pensar.
Gracias.
We have a 5-bedroom apartment and we only split it between 3 people. So it was, the main roommates were me, her daughter, and this Italian guy. So there was 4 of us, and then there was the Airbnb. So there's 5 different people spending gas, electricity, water, Wi-Fi, and everything, but we'd only split it between the 3 of us. One time I tried to ask her like, hey, what's up with that?
¿Sabes que no te puedo entender? ¿Sabes que no entiendo nada? Ni nadie más. Nadie te entiendo. Kat, tómate clases.
Your Spanish sucks. Like, I don't understand. Get a Spanish teacher. That was like her response every single time I tried to call her out on her BS. Sometimes when they would overbook the Airbnb, my other Italian roommate would sleep on the couch, but it was really annoying because every time he was there, it was like nobody could make any noise. And since he worked at a bar, he wouldn't get home until like 5 in the morning most nights. So he would sleep in until like 3, and I couldn't use my apartment until he woke up at around 3 p.m.
Hola, buenos días. Katy, shh, shh. Katy, shh. Katy.
She told me, you go shopping for the house. And since all I wanted to do, like I said, was get along with this woman and get along with my roommates and just be in a happy house, I was like, I would do anything, literally anything, just to get on her good side. And then I realized, like when I was buying all this stuff, that she's been overcharging me this entire time. Things that she would charge like 5 euros was like 30 cents at the store, or things that, you know, she said that she would need like every month, like a new broom and stuff she wasn't even buying. It was just like a lot of things that I found out she was lying about. And when I called her out once again, this is what would happen.
¿Qué me estás diciendo, Katy? No entiendo nada. Contrate una profesora para enseñarte español. No soy tu mami, okay? Okay?
I had this friend who was an au pair, and she lived in this really far town where there was like 3 buses the entire day. So she would just take the first bus and just spend the night on Friday, so then she would have like the whole weekend. My friend slept on the couch, and she went berserk on me saying like, this is not a hostel, blah blah blah, yada yada yada, which was fine. So I was like, okay, I respect that since it is public space, and if you want to use that space and my friend's there, you can't use it. So I understood. I was like, okay, fine. So the next weekend, she slept on my floor. It was just bare tile on the floor. My friend was sleeping on without a pillow, without a blanket, literally nothing, like just on the floor, because I had nothing to give her. Solly found out that she slept in my room, and she freaked the F out, calling my friend homeless. And she's like, this is not a homeless shelter. Like, why doesn't your friend have a place to live? She's like, this is not, you know, a hostel, blah, blah, blah. And she was trying to charge her rent for the 2 times she was there. Oh, is this not a hostel? Because I thought it was. All those Airbnb guests think it is. But now that my friend's sleeping on the floor, you're not charging her rent. She was like, she uses electricity, she uses water, she uses the Wi-Fi, that's money, and she's just staying here for free, da da da. And I'm like, okay, she's not staying for free, it's 1 night. Okay, I understand the water thing. So like, she wasn't allowed to take a shower when she was there. Okay, if I'm in a room anyways, the lights are gonna be on. It's not like we're using extra light because she's in the room. It was just such a mess. So I had like always sneak her in. We'd have to come in really late at night, and then she would sneak out in the morning, like before they would wake up. And it was just like so stressful because I was just really stressed out that she was gonna like run into her and find her and, you know, yell at me. This one night I came back from a party and I was just really, really drunk, and I ended up like somehow wobbling.
Okay guys, we're just gonna keep moving through with the technical difficulties. So this night I got back home, and I somehow, the most consciousness I could be and the quietest I could be as this drunk person, I hobbled over consciously, holding in my nauseousness until I got to the bathroom, and I got sick in the toilet, you know, and I actually got it all in the toilet, flush. It was all very clean as that could have been. And then I hobbled back to my room very quietly and went to bed. And then this is how I was woken up to in the morning.
Hola, Katy. Gracias. Tú vomitando me se quedó despierta. Toda la noche.
So that night we actually stayed, we were like in the living room together, and I stayed up and I fell asleep watching a movie. The next morning she came in and she's like, did you sleep here? Did you sleep in the living room? And I was like, yeah, I fell asleep, sorry, like. And she was like, don't ever do that again. This is not a homeless shelter. Like, again, you have a room. Like, don't ever sleep in the living room again. And it was the same thing where I was just like, I just felt like really overwhelmed. Just like I just can't do anything right with this woman. She's just so uptight about everything. Oh my God. And then she would be like, you know, first you bring your homeless friend and now you're trying to sleep on the couch and everything. And I'm just like, I pay to live here. Like, why are you being so dramatic? Another thing that really bugged the crap out of me is she would talk crap about me in front of me to my other roommate, her daughter, and also her friends and guests that would like come over. And you know, like, you don't have to know perfect Spanish or perfect of any language to know someone's talking about you. One time her sister came over and she actually speaks English. She was a lot younger, and she came into my room and this was the conversation.
You're Kati, right?
Oh, you speak English?
My sister says you're a pretty horrible roommate. You can, you know, think about others a little bit more and pick up after yourself a little bit more and think more about the team. You know, you do live together.
Okay, I'll try to be a better roommate.
Yeah, okay, bye.
I got to a point at some point in this, you know, 8-month period that I would be waking up at like 5:30 in the morning, have my breakfast, and get out the house before I would even see her. And then I would stay out all the entire day, Monday literally through Sunday, and get back at 11 just to avoid her, because I just did not feel comfortable at home. I was just like, I will do anything to stay out. I will freaking take extra classes. I'll do intercambios. And honestly, like, that's something I never told anybody, but that's why I did intercambios every single day. And that's honestly why my Spanish improved so much, because I was just avoiding this woman. So that meant forcing myself to do things and forcing myself to be around Spanish people. So I guess in the end, it ended up being really good. I remember a lot of weekends me crashing on my friend's couch, even though like I have an apartment that I paid for. I would crash at my friend's house. And even one time I remember paying for a hostel just to avoid. I probably would have paid for a hostel every single weekend if I wasn't so broke at the time, but thankfully our program does not pay that much. So I was like, couldn't do that every single weekend. So at this point of our relationship, I just completely cut the rest of her and my roommates off, because my roommates were her daughter, and then this Italian guy was never home either. And I think they were like effing, but anyways, that's another story. And she like came into my room one of these days, and this is what she said.
Hola, Kati. Oye, me había dado cuenta que no hablas con nadie nunca. ¿Por qué eres tan rara?
Ok, voy a dormir. Buenas noches.
Rara. She pretty much thought I was antisocial and kind of like, I don't know, I think she thought I was like depressed or something, which I probably was, but yeah, she was just like, you don't talk to anybody because I freaking hate you. One of the biggest things I was just like, she's just fucking crazy. On the Auxiliary program, you only get paid once a month. At the end of the month, you get paid your stipend. So it was usually on, you know, the end of the week. So since I didn't work on Fridays, if we were supposed to get paid that Thursday, usually we don't get paid until Monday. So there was a lot of situations like that where I would get paid on a Friday, but I don't come in until that next Monday. And she would be harassing me, like on the day that the first, when the money was due, she'd be harassing me, texting me in the morning, texting me in the afternoon, texting me at night, being like, where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money? And I'd be like, okay, Solly, like it's Saturday, tomorrow's Sunday. I'm not gonna have your money tomorrow either. It is the weekend, the banks are closed. So I could just never understand why she couldn't understand that if it's a Saturday and I don't get paid until Monday, even though the first is on Saturday, why she keeps like harassing me for the money. And I know multiple times I was like, okay, all I have is $100. I could just give you that. And she'd be like, no, 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 no. I was on vacation. I don't remember exactly where I was. And she was texting me every single day. Where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money? And I was like, okay, I don't get paid until I get back to school. So you can stop texting me because nothing's gonna change. So I got back. And I walk into the room and she sold my bed. She sold my bed. I had like this twin size bed, which wasn't that big, but it could at least fit me. And it was like this children's bed. It wasn't like a crib or something, but like my legs were like halfway falling off this bed because I'm not even that tall. Like, I was just like, look at this. I'm like, this is a joke, man. Like someone just pulled like, where are the cameras? Where's Ashton Kutcher? Because this is a joke. Like she's insane. So I just like I'm like, I was livid at the time. Now I'm laughing, but I was livid. Solly, where's my bed? And she's like, I sold it. I sold your bed. And I was just like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And this is what happened.
Estás alquilando toda la casa de mí. Esta es mía. Esta es mía. Esta manta es mía. Esta cojina es mía. Esta cama es mía. Te he dado todo. Te he dado todo en la casa. Todo. Esto es todo mía. Deberías decirme gracias. Gracias. Gracias, Sally.
Her rationality, her logic was that all of these things is something I'm renting from her, and I should be thankful and grateful that I even have the things I have, pretty much. But when you're paying for something, I'm paying for a room to be furnished and I'm paying for a bed that's my size. I don't think that's that ridiculous to be like, you can't sell my bed. Like, you can't sell my bed, woman. You cannot sell my bed. Like, you just can't do that. I'm sorry. That next break we had, I was like, I need to get out of here because this woman is like insane. So I went to Morocco. And once again, I got paid while I was in Morocco, and she was texting me. I was there for 3 weeks. She was texting me every day about this money. I was just like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. So I texted her back and I was like, hey, like, this is just not working out for me. We've been at this for so long. Find a new roommate. I'm giving you 30-day notice to find a new roommate. I think that's plenty of time. I'm leaving. She doesn't respond. I get back to Madrid and I get to the room and my clothes are just soaking wet, sitting in this bucket. So you remember when I said she wouldn't let me wash my own clothes alone? You had to like put a bunch of different loads with other people's clothes. So we put our load in and she decided just not to hang them up. And usually I am completely responsible for my own clothes, and I don't expect anyone to hang up my clothes. But the thing was, I was in Morocco and like she could have done me that favor, because every single time that I get my clothes, like I'm home and I take the clothes out, I hang them up, I fold them, everything, like for everyone in the house. It's never like, oh, this is mine and this is yours. Like, no, I do it for everyone because it's just like, that's just the thing you do. Just like when you're doing dishes, you just wash everyone's dishes that's around, because it's just like, you just do it, you know? Like, I don't know. And she just left it in this bucket. So it wasn't even enough water so it would be soaking. It was just enough water for it to get moldy and stinky, and it's been sitting in this bucket for like 3 weeks. So my clothes were moldy, and being, you know, a traveler that I am, I didn't have much. So I had to throw it all out. And I'm not saying these like very nice things, but it was just like everything I had pretty much. I'm done with this woman. I'm done. For me, that was just like the most where I was just like, maybe it's not that big of a deal, but I was just like, after all of that other stuff that happened before that, I was like, I'm done with this woman. Like, she's crazy. I've never met somebody so evil in my life. Like she's literally the devil's child, like the devil's child. Oh my God. I went over to my friend's house and we were like scheming to leave. We were like spies and trying, I'm gonna take my stuff in the middle of the night and I'm just gonna leave. So this woman, I forgot I hadn't paid her yet. So it's like maybe January 3rd or something. It was like 3 in the morning and she waited up trying to get for me to pay her. And I was just like, this bitch is crazy, because I was like, I haven't been to work yet. I haven't been to work to get the money. So either way, I didn't have money. That's why I was just like, she's so like, so I packed up all my stuff before my friend came. And then when he came, I was like, okay, just leave the door open. I'm just gonna take my suitcase and just slide it out and we're out of here. Things are never that easy how we plan, right? So she caught us in the act. Oh my God, she caught us. So she comes out and she's just like looking all crazy, and she was just like, what are you doing? And I wish I could reenact this, but it was just too many things going on. This was the most honest I've been with her since I've been living with her. I was like, Solly, this is not working. Like, I've been miserable since I've been here. You treat me like crap. You treat me like crap. And I'm just not dealing with this anymore, so I'm leaving. And it's like, I give you 30-day notice, so like whatever. And she's like, where's my money? She starts freaking out. She's like, where's my money? You're not leaving. She starts pushing me, like pushing my bag. She's like in between me and the door, so I can't like get out of the room, and she's like not letting me pass. And she's like, give me my money, like freaking out. By the way, there's like Airbnb here and like people are sleeping. It's like 3 in the morning and she doesn't care. And I was just like, okay, Solly, like calm down. I'm gonna pay you, but I'm just not staying here anymore. And I don't get paid until Monday. You already know this. We go over this every freaking month. I'm gonna give you your money. I'm an honest person. I've never not paid you. So like, can you just like relax? And she was just like freaking the fuck out. My friend is outside the door, like outside the apartment. He's like knocking on the door because he can hear her like screaming bloody murder at me. And I'm just like my Spanish is horrible. I'm just trying to say like, I'm gonna pay you. So she opens the door and she fucking punches him in the face. She punches him in the face. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is going on? So then now my friend is like trying to get into the apartment to like kind of rescue me. And now like her daughter comes out. And by the way, she's like 16. So she's a minor. She shouldn't be involved in this. And Solly, instead of being like, go back to your room, she's like trying to get her to fight my friend. And it was just like fucking mess. So some way in there, I threw the keys like on the floor and I just like went for the door and we were like on the outside. And then I was like, Saul, you need to give me my stuff. And she's like hitting my friend in the face and she's just like going crazy. And then she starts screaming bloody murder. She's like, ladrones, ladrones, hay ladrones en mi casa, mi hija, ah. You know, just scream. And this is going on probably like a good 15 minutes that she's just like screaming. And like, I was like, I don't care about the stuff. I was like, keep the fucking stuff. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm out of here. Like, I never want to see you again. So I was like, I don't care about my stuff. She had all my stuff, like my passport, my money. Well, I didn't really have much money, but like my computer, all my suitcases, everything. She had everything. And I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm leaving. So now this is when shit hits the fan. Shit hits the fan. Oh my God. By the way, like, I'm trying to leave. Like, we're trying to leave. Like, we're not trying to have any more conversation with her. We're trying to leave. And she's like literally like holding on to me, will not let me go. Like, she will not let me leave. And I'm like trying to leave. And my friend is like trying to pull her off. He never in a moment hit her or her daughter. Never in a moment. I was there the entire time. He never hit anyone. It was her hitting him in the face and him just like blocking. And maybe at some point like a hand slip, but it was never like him trying to beat anyone up. So this neighbor from above us comes running down and he's like this big buff guy, the only buff guy in Spain who lives in my freaking building. And he comes down and he's just like, you know, just looking at us. I'm looking at my friend and I'm looking at, you know, Solly, and I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, this doesn't look good for us. You have this foreign girl, you know, because Spain can be a little like rough on foreigners. And then you have this guy, and then you have like this defenseless old woman and her little daughter screaming that we're robbers and we're on the outside of the door. So I was like, this looks really bad. So of course the guy sides with my crazy ass neighbor and her daughter. My friend was trying to like explain to him that I live in this house and she's keeping my stuff hostage, but all we're trying to do is leave and she's like not letting us. And he like pushes him down the stairs and I was just like, oh my God. I was just like, oh my God. I was just like, oh my God. Like, this is like a reality show. You've got to be kidding me. Like, where, like you gotta be fucking kidding me. She's like, call the police. And I was like, I'll call the police for you. You can't hold my stuff. First of all, she was like illegally subletting out this room. Second of all, she already had my deposit, so I really didn't have to pay her for anything. And then thirdly, out of all the other things she gypped me on and charged me more, and all the lies I caught her in with like the Airbnb that she was probably making like $2,000 off a month, and then ripping me off about things that she said was like $5 and it was really like 30 cents and things like that. I was like, I well paid over triple the amount that this month would have been. And I've only been here for like 3 days. After I was like, I'm not paying her a single penny, like a penny. So the cops come, and the only reason why we stuck around because I was just like, I don't want this to look bad, and if I can get my stuff, I want my stuff. So pretty much she was like illegally subletting out this room, and she couldn't legally hold my stuff. Like, she had to let me live my stuff. This ambulance comes and I was like, why is the ambulance here? This ambulance comes, goes running up the stairs, and I'm just like, what the hell? Like, she's gonna, we go upstairs. So the cops like escorted us upstairs so I can get my stuff, because they were like, she can't hold your stuff, but you need to pay her rent. And I was just like, okay, whatever. I get myself, and her daughter is like bleeding on her face, and I kid you not, I would not be surprised if Solly cut her daughter just to be like, she got cut, or told her to cut herself, because in no moment did my friend or me, because I didn't touch her and neither did my friend, because she was kind of like trying to like get in there, but you know, no one touched her, and she was all of a sudden bleeding on her face and like all roughed up, and I was just like, okay, when did this happen? Because you were fine like 2 seconds ago. So I'm just like, who the fuck does that? Who does that? Who cuts their daughter to make someone else get in trouble. So whatever, so like the cops were like interrogating us. By the way, I was like super illegal at this point. I think I overstayed my visa. It was like that really weird point where stuff was like processing, but I didn't have like a physical thing yet. It was just my passport, expired passport. I didn't have any documentation on me that I had my thing processing. Oh my God. She was just like screaming like, you hit my daughter, like you're going to jail and da da da. I was like, I'm not going to jail, so I didn't touch your daughter. But at the same time, I was like, it's your word, your psycho ass word against, you know, mine. It was like nobody was here except your side and my side and the neighbor that doesn't know what the hell was going on. And it was just like such a freaking mess. And you know what the cops did? The cops were just like, you need to pay her rent, but there's nothing legally that you have to, but like morally right, you should pay her rent because you've been here for the last 3 days and like whatever. And then they gave me my stuff and they left, and they were like, that's it. And they wrote down like my passport number and they just like left. So I was like, okay, awesome. Spanish police, like they were just like, because in the US, oh my God, somebody would have got arrested. It would have been a lot more dramatic. Yeah. Yes, that is the story of my crazy ass roommate. So unfortunately, the story still continues. I actually saw her maybe like 4 days later. I was looking at the Sabada, which is like this park, and she sees me and she's like, Ana Katy. And I was just like, oh God, And I was like, hola Sally. And you know what she does? She's like, eres una thora. And she just pushes me, and I was in heels, so I fell right in front of her daughter too. This is the influence that you're showing your daughter, is to just like bully people, you know, because I was 19 at the time, you know, I just like had no backbone. I mean, because if now that happened to me, it would have been a lot different. I wouldn't have fought her because she's like in her 40s, and I'm just not a fighter. I'm not that kind of person, but I definitely wouldn't have dealt with that. So she like literally pushed me in the street, and I think she was trying to get me to fight her so she could like start screaming and be hysterical, but I was just like, I just picked up my stuff and I just like walked the other way, and I was just like, this is just not worth it. And it's like, it's not worth dealing with your shit, man. Like, you're just crazy. Like, a lot of my exes will be like, Kat, you're so crazy, but like, if I'm crazy, like, try dating this woman, because she is, something is wrong with her. So that was like the last time I saw her in person. But anyways, if you like these story times, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to get more, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.